Yo, YouTube, what's good, man? It's your boy Chase, and we are back with another video. We are once again back with more scary reactions. We got 4 most disturbing early internet rabbit holes. So, enough yapping. Let's get it.
SeeMeRot.com. In February of 2004, a user on a now outdated message board asked other members about a strangely morbid site they recently came across. The post read, SeeMeRot.com. Is this coffin webcam real? I recently visited www.seemerot.com, which is a live webcam inside a coffin that is taping a woman in her 40s who passed away from natural causes. Something isn't right here. They claim it's real, but there is very loose wording under the disclaimer. Someone please help clear this up. Is it a hoax? There seems like there are too many loose ends here. There has to be more to the story than this. Visiting this site today leads to an Australian fashion and lifestyle.
First off, why are you clicking on an app or a website titled See Me Right?
The story than this. Visiting this site today leads to an Australian fashion and lifestyle blog that has nothing to do with what this post was talking about. Fortunately, this domain has been extensively archived by the Wayback Machine over the years, allowing us to go back in time and see how it used to look in August of 2003. And sure enough, it was just as bizarre as the OP mentioned in their post. Its logo was the site's name over a picture of a coffin, with an ominous caption tagline reading, "Being dead and buried doesn't mean you can't have friends over." Below this was a supposed live view from within a coffin, featuring 2 cameras pointed at the deceased face and feet. Live streaming video over the internet wasn't really a thing back then, so these were more akin to images that were updated periodically. These images were too low res and hard to decipher, even for 2003 standards, hinting that this whole thing might have been nothing more than a hoax. But less than a month later, the site's owner replaced them with a much clearer picture of the person in the coffin. It showed what was supposed to be the final resting place of a young woman in a light blue button-up shirt. This new feed also refreshed every 10 seconds with an updated picture. However, the most disturbing part of this website wasn't the coffin stream, but the description beside it. It opened with the site's owner providing a detailed play-by-play of what exactly they did to get this live preview, stating, "Welcome to SeeMeRot.com. This site is dedicated to all who have gone before us. 2 months ago, we attached the world's first live coffin cams to the interior of our subject's casket. This was done after friends and family had seen the deceased for the last time. We then traveled over 2,000 miles with the casket to the family's chosen burial place, undisclosed to protect gravesite. Having arrived at the graveyard, a small ceremony was held, after which the final preparations were made to our transmitting hardware and lighting units. All went according to plan at first, and the casket was lowered just after lunchtime, April 15th, 2003. Cam tests were carried out at the site and the grave was sealed. We then set off back to our office in the heart of Seattle." This description ended with the site's owner urging readers to contact them if they wanted a coffin cam for their loved ones as well. So the whole purpose of this site appeared to be an advertisement for their disturbing service, which left visitors with more questions than it answered. Like, who in their right mind would want to see the decay of their friends and family after their passing? But while people were figuring that out, SeeMeRot.com became a phenomenon on the early internet, with people talking about it on forums, prompting even more flock to the site out of sheer curiosity. It even got picked up by mainstream media like the QI, or Quite Interesting show from the UK. The biggest question most visitors had, however, was whether it was actually legit. Were these images really from the inside of a coffin? Well, as it turned out, SeeMeRot.com was nothing more than a hoax. Some savvy users quickly figured out that the live preview wasn't live at all. Instead, it was the looping GIF of a still image that went in and out of focus to emulate a live digital camera from that era. This also explains why the supposed body didn't change one bit in the 10 years the site was up. But this begs the question, why? Why would someone go through the effort of setting up a whole website centered around this false premise? The creator even went as far as to add a legal section with disclaimers about how this was all being done with consent, all in an effort to make it seem more legit. One of the first explanations that comes to mind is that this was an art project of sorts. Though, a closer look at this site suggests that its creation was driven more by profit than by artistic intent. You see, this site has had advertisements on its homepage, often for adult content from its inception, something that was very common in the early internet days. A site called the Museum of Hoaxes even managed to track down the site's registration address to some adult business in West Hollywood, California. Put simply, the creator of SeeMeRot.com created this hoax to entice visits from around the world and then leverage those visits to earn money from sponsors. As for the images featured on the site, who these people are is still unknown, but they were likely taken by the creators themselves, possibly one of their friends, as I wasn't able to find any record of them on the internet from before the site went up. SeeMeRot.com was ultimately shut down in 2013. It has since changed owners multiple times between different businesses, including a coffee company and now a fashion and lifestyle blog from a tiny remote town in Australia. That said, the identity of the original creator remains a mystery to this day. They exhibited some odd behavior over the years, like continuing to update the site to make its, and by extension their coffin cam business, seem more legit, despite the internet figuring things out by 2004. At one point, they even made up a story about the police confiscating their camera equipment. It's now been over 12 years since the original site was up.
Bro, what did we just watch? I'm so confused right now. Like, why would... Bro, what be wrong with people? People be weird, bro. Like, some people are mentally, like...
Mortis.com.
Bro, what?
In early 2010, a bored 4chan user was typing random URLs in their browser, hoping to stumble across something interesting. And while most URLs they tried were either unavailable or belonged to some business, one caught their attention almost immediately: Mortis.com. It was a completely black page with nothing but a generic login window in the middle. There was no logo or description that could help visitors understand what the website was about. This mysterious landing page, combined with Mortis roughly translating to "of death" in Latin, piqued this user's curiosity. But without a valid username and password, there was nothing he could do to investigate further. With no other option, he turned to 4chan and made a post about the site on its technology board. What he didn't realize at the time, however, was that this would spark a decades-long mystery that remains unsolved to this day. Now, I should mention that while some still remain, a significant portion of the discussion threads and forum posts regarding Mortis.com have since vanished from the internet, including the wiki page users created to keep track of all their findings. Any backups of Mortis.com have also been deleted from the Internet Archive upon a request from the site's owner. In other words, whoever this owner is, they do not want people digging into this. The Mortis.com site also went down sometime in 2011, possibly because people started trying to brute force its login requirements by using special software to try millions of username and password combinations, so the owner took it down. Now, most of these attempts led nowhere, but a few more tech-savvy individuals managed to extract valuable information from the site's code before it went offline. Most interesting among these was the fact that it was originally registered all the way back in November of 1997 by a man named Thomas Ling. This allowed users to discover 24 other websites under that same name.
Bro, I'm gonna be honest. Him explaining all of this, bro, there are some smart-ass people in this world, bro. Like, when it comes to this technology shit, there are some people, bro, who can tap into anything. Like, I don't even know. I'm going to be honest. Half the shit he's saying, I don't even know what it means.
Originally registered all the way back in November of 1997 by a man named Thomas Ling. This allowed users to discover 24 other websites under that same name. But instead of offering clarity, the discovery of these additional sites only made the mystery more convoluted. Take Cthulhu.net, for instance, which was named after the eldritch monster created by H.P. Lovecraft. It was just a black page with the text "Dead but Dreaming" written on it, and nothing else. Some users also claim to have seen a version of this site with a white chess piece on it, though I wasn't able to find any archives containing that detail. Either way, the whole thing was deeply puzzling and mysterious. That said, not all sites under Thomas's name were this empty. Exercio.com led to a landing page with 4 different options. Among these, quilts.html was the most notable, as it led to a page about someone sharing pictures of their quilting projects. And while this doesn't look all that important to the Mortis.com mystery at first glance, in actuality, it holds the key to answering everything, or at least getting as close to the answer as we can. But we'll get to that a bit later, because there's another key piece of this puzzle that we haven't discussed yet. You see, while people were snooping around the Mortis.com code and the emails relating to its domain, they discovered terabytes of encrypted data connected to this site, which is an unheard of amount of data for the late 90s. Some individual files in this collection were as large as 39 gigabytes, which got people even more curious about what this site was hiding behind its login page. Theories included everything from a private collection of illegal explicit material to something connected to the three-letter agencies like the CIA or FBI. However, while people were trying to figure this out, Thomas allegedly contacted one of the investigators and told him to stop trying to hack his site. As the story goes, Thomas also claimed that these files were nothing more than the photos and videos from his wedding, which would have been a reasonable explanation if these files were only a few gigabytes in size, not terabytes. A more reasonable theory, one that I personally believe in as well, is that Thomas was pirating movies and other media and using Mortis.com to host them online. This way, he could easily consume this media from any device with an internet connection while also being able to share it with all his friends and family. This would also explain why he was so reluctant about people finding out the truth, as it could land him in some trouble with the authorities. Most importantly, this theory isn't completely baseless either. While looking through the data connected to Mortis.com, one 4chan user stumbled upon a 25 gigabyte file with a seemingly gibberish name of DriveCrazy3DBD25.part2. However, looking up Drive Crazy 3D followed by movie brings up results relating to a 2011 film by Nicolas Cage called Drive Angry 3D. With that, we can decipher the rest of the name as well, with BD likely being the short form of Blu-ray disc and 25 referring to its size in gigabytes. Put simply, Mortis.com was likely nothing more than a pirated media server. As for its ominous name, it's possible he chose Mortis just because it sounded cool. The only big questions that remain are, who is Thomas Ling and why does he own so many empty or just plain strange websites? And the answer to these lies in the quilting page we found earlier. Near the top of this page, there's a logo reading DFI. We can find this same logo in the FAQ section of another website registered under Thomas's name called dentalfillins.com. This was a job board of sorts for dentists that was likely operated by Thomas back in the day. We know this because one of his currently operational websites is thomaslingdds.com, which is a website for a San Francisco dentist named Thomas W. Ling. This quilting page also includes pictures of quilts created for Jeff and Josh for their first birthday. These names also align with two more domains Thomas registered in 2010 and 2014. Lastly, while looking through the many domains connected to Thomas, I discovered a subdomain of Cthulhu.net containing a 7-day travel journal. These entries describe Thomas and his wife Karen's adventures across Asia, including Thailand, China, and Hong Kong. And as expected, Thomas also owns the KarenLing.com domain as well. Damn. To summarize, Mortis.com was most probably a personal media server owned and operated by a San Francisco dentist named Thomas Ling. As for the many domains under his name, he acquired them for his businesses, close family members, or for random projects like creating an online travel journal. These were also meant to be a completely personal thing. Unfortunately, someone accidentally stumbled across one of his sites and turned them into a decade-long internet rabbit hole that many are still trying to figure out to this day.
Bro.
Slave
That shit. Slave master. Come on, bro. It's 2025, dog. Come on, bro. I thought we was past this, bro. Come on, bro. Anyway, like I was gonna say, bro, all of that was confusing. Like I said, I don't even really understand what the fuck they were talking about. All I remember is Jeff, Josh, Karen, and Thomas. Let's continue. They talking about some slave master in this next one.
Slave master. In the year 2000, a very disturbing chain message started spreading on AOL, which was a popular instant messenger at the time. If a guy by the name of Slave Master contacts you, do not answer. He has killed 56 women that he has talked to on the internet. Please send out to all the women on your buddy list. Also ask them to pass this on. He has been on Yahoo, AOL, Excite so far. This is no joke. And please send this to men too, just in case. Send to everyone you know. Now, chain messages like this were fairly common back in the day. They were an evolution of the physical chain letters and often contained some pretty out there claims, like telling the reader to forward it to 20 people or something bad would happen in 3 days. This one, however, felt a lot more real, and that's because it actually was. Slave Master wasn't the name of a fictional horror character someone had created to start an internet hoax. Instead, it was the username of John Edward Robinson, the internet's first serial killer. someone who used early online chat rooms like AOL to find and entrap his targets. One of his first online victims was 45-year-old Sheila Faith. She met John in 1994 in an online chat room, and after talking with her for a few weeks to gain her trust, John promised to pay for the surgery of her 15-year-old wheelchair-bound daughter, Debbie. All Sheila had to do was go to Kansas City.
Oh, bro, that is so fucked up. So, bro is using the fact that she has a 15-year-old daughter who's, I guess, disabled or needs surgery. He's going to use that for a reason to kill. Wait, bro, was his name Slave Master when he was talking
Find and
to
entrap his targets. One of his first...
I'm going to be honest, if somebody's name is Slave Master and they contact you, come on, bro. I know common sense ain't common, but damn.
Sheila Faith. She met John in 1994 in an online chat room, and after talking with her for a few weeks to gain her trust, John promised to pay for the surgery of her 15-year-old wheelchair-bound daughter, Debbie. All Sheila had to do was go to Kansas City where John lived, and he promised to take care of everything else. She agreed and moved to the city with Debbie in December of that year. Unfortunately, that was the last time anyone saw Sheila or Debbie alive. A few years later, John used the persona of slave master once again, this time with a 21-year-old Polish immigrant named Izabela Lewicka. Izabela met John in 1997 and began chatting with him almost daily. Over the next 2 years, John showered her with love and convinced her to move to Kansas City as well. Once she was there, he rented an apartment for her and even made her sign a marriage certificate, which he never turned in. But then Izabela suddenly disappeared, and when asked about her by her peers, John claimed that she was caught using drugs and was thus deported back to Poland. Tragically, this lie worked better than he might have expected, giving him the confidence to look for his third online victim just a few months later. And the next person to fall in this trap was 27-year-old Suzette Troughton. She was a nurse from Michigan with big dreams. John realized this early on in their conversation and posed as a wealthy businessman to entice Suzette. He offered her a $60,000 a year job working as his non-existent father's primary caretaker, and to sweeten the deal further, also promised to take her with him on his business trips around the world. This was what finally convinced Suzette to leave her already established life in Michigan and move to Kansas City. But...
So you mean to tell me, bro, Buddy here has gotten not one, not two, but 3 women to come to him. He's gotten 3 women to come to him. Do you know how hard it is to do that nowadays? I can't get no girl to come to me. And he got 3. And not only that, they moved, like genuinely moved thousands of miles from where they were to him. Bro, these females nowadays, you do that shit, they calling the police on you, talk about some move out here. Bro.
Unlike his previous 3 victims who disappeared without a trace, Suzette gave John's name and number to her mother before leaving. Shortly after leaving for Kansas City, her mother also started receiving several typed letters, supposedly from Suzette, reassuring her of her safety.
So bro, and then also, see, this irritates me. You've never met this man in your life. You've never met him in your life. And you down to just move thousands of miles to another person that you've never physically seen.
However, her mother found these letters incredibly suspicious, as Suzette had never sent a typed letter before. They were also free of any grammatical or spelling mistakes, which didn't match Suzette's writing style. So she called John, hoping to speak with her daughter. Instead, she was met with hostility from John, who accused Suzette of stealing his money and running away. But Suzette's mother knew her daughter would never do something like this. So she called the police on March 1st, 2000, kickstarting an investigation into John's life. The police in Kansas City, however, were already quite suspicious of him. You see, John was a lifelong con artist who'd been behind bars several times for embezzlement, fraud, forgery, and other similar charges. Most importantly, his name had already come up in multiple missing woman cases. Each time he escaped consequences due to insufficient evidence. This time, investigators held back and quietly kept John under surveillance. And it wasn't long before their patience paid off. One of his would-be victims called the police on him. This gave the authorities a warrant to put John under arrest and search his property for evidence. However, what this search uncovered was far more horrific than anyone could have imagined. As it turned out, Sheila Faith was far from his first victim. She was just the first one he lured through the internet. He'd already lured and killed 4 more women before Sheila, dating as far back as 1984, including 19-year-old Paula Godfrey, 27-year-old Catherine Clampett, and 49-year-old Beverly Bonner. However, his worst crime was against 19-year-old Lisa Stasi. John approached Lisa and her 4-month-old daughter after his brother expressed his desire to adopt a child. He lured Lisa with promises of a stable life, only to end her life in a hotel room. He then gave Lisa's 4-month-old daughter to his brother, claiming that she was an orphan, and even pocketed $5,500 from them in legal fees. After—
Oh my God! This nigga is the devil! He's the devil, bro, in the flesh. This nigga's evil. Bruh, I ain't ever in my life heard of some shit like this. And I've heard of Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy. I've heard of all of them. But this nigga, bro, he deserved lethal injection, guillotine, and the electric chair all at once. Cause what the fuck? This nigga's evil.
And even pocketed $5,500 from them in legal fees. After his arrest, authorities searched his property with cadaver dogs and discovered multiple oil drums filled with the rotting remains of his victims. He was convicted in January 2003 and received 5 life sentences without the possibility of parole, along with a death sentence for his crimes.
What?
Markovian
the fuck? Bro, these right here, this is some shit. I ain't never watched no shit like this. This is crazy. First off, to all my people watching this, don't meet up with nobody, bro. If you haven't seen a picture of them, you know what I'm saying, or seen them, like, just don't do dumb shit, okay? Don't do idiotic shit. And don't move out thousands of miles away to a nigga you ain't ever even seen before.
Parallax denigrate.
Rest in peace.
On March 11, 2004, American journal Markovian parallax denigrate.
This is nuts.
On March 11, 2004, American journalist and U.S. Congress worker Suzanne Lindauer was arrested by the FBI on suspicion of being a spy for Iraq. While doing some research on her, a Wikipedia user named Lazarus666 found a connection between her and a string of strange Usenet posts from 8 years earlier. For some context, Usenet was the precursor to modern internet forums. Discussions on Usenet were divided into several sections called the news groups, similar to subreddits on Reddit. Now, spam on Usenet wasn't exactly rare. Shady companies often made promotional posts in an attempt to market their products for cheap. However, on August 5, 1996, several groups were flooded with tens of thousands of posts that looked like regular spam at first, but a closer look revealed their true intention, or lack thereof. Put simply, these posts were mostly complete gibberish with seemingly random strings of words formed into paragraphs. Now, when Lazarus was researching Susan Lindauer, he came across one of the few surviving posts from that day and noticed that it was made by a Susan Lindauer as well. Lazarus speculated that these might have something to do with Susan sending encoded messages back to Iraq. Looking back, however, this theory makes little to no sense. That's mainly because in over 2 decades, no one has been able to identify any patterns in the posts that might suggest they're encoded. More importantly, if Susan wanted to broadcast anonymous messages, why would she use an email with her own name on it? But regardless of how feasible Lazarus's theory was, it ended up generating a ton of interest in the topic. These strange Usenet posts were later given the name Markovian parallax denigrate based on the subject line of the sole surviving post. It also became known as one of the first great mysteries of the internet, with people from around the world trying to figure out what these posts meant. Unfortunately, no one has been able to find a concrete answer ever since. The theory linking them with Susan Lindauer was eventually dropped by internet sleuths as they couldn't find anything connecting the two. It was also discovered that the email address actually belonged to a student of the same name from the University of Wisconsin. However, this also went nowhere as the email address turned out to be spoofed from the start. People then looked into the mystery's title, Markovian Parallax Denigrate, and assumed that it might have something to do with the Markovian process, which is the math used by phone keyboards to predict the next word in a sentence, and even serves as the foundation for modern text-based AI services like ChatGPT. So maybe someone was just experimenting with a new Markovian process-based bot and decided to unleash it on the Usenet. Unfortunately, this theory doesn't have much ground to stand on either. The thing is, this mystery only got the Markovian name because that was the subject of the most popular surviving post. This led many to falsely believe that this was the subject for all the thousands of similar posts made that day. But that can't be further from the truth. The word Markovian appeared on the subjects of only 2 posts out of thousands. Even if we assume these posts were generated by a Markovian bot, the theory still doesn't hold up, since the content of these posts was pure gibberish. Despite the fact that Markovian text generators from years before this incident were already capable of producing coherent sentences with relative ease. So, what's the actual explanation here? What was the true meaning behind these thousands of seemingly nonsensical posts? Well, like many other mysteries on the internet, the most likely answer is also the simplest one. Put plainly, this spam of thousands of posts was just that, spam. Something that becomes abundantly clear when you consider that, with a single exception, the only news groups targeted were related to Christianity. In other words, there's a strong chance this was simply an attempt by an unknown user to troll Christian news groups. As for why the spam looked so jumbled, it was likely an attempt to bypass Usenet's spam filters, which typically flagged and deleted repeated messages. That said, this is still just an educated guess, and the rabbit hole can get much deeper the more you look into this. Maybe it did originate as something far more exotic, like a text version of spy number stations, or an attempt to test the security of Usenet by a foreign entity. But unless the original developer comes forward with a confession, the spam theory is the best we have to explain the rabbit hole that is Markovian Parallax Denigrate.
I'm gonna be honest, bro. The ones where they talking about coding and Markovian Delicrate donuts, like, it's just like, bro, I don't even know what y'all talking about, if I'm being completely honest. You feel what I'm saying? But hopefully you all did enjoy it. If you did, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Hit post notifications to know when I upload. And of course, like always, you don't have to, but if you want to, follow me on Instagram, ChaiseBurton. Get at that. Yeah, like I always say, we're gonna continue to bring these scary videos. You feel what I'm saying? But the nigga before though, the Thomas person, I think that was his name, something like that. He's evil. That's some evil shit. Like I said, bro, don't trust nobody. Stay prayed up. You feel me? God will never lead you wrong. So stay prayed up, bro, and don't trust people on the internet. Especially if you don't know, like, you don't see them and know what they look like. You get it. You get it. But that will indeed be it. So make sure y'all keep thugging. Make sure y'all stay dangerous. And we out.